Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Dream Chasers Ground Zero. I have Paul Carswell with us today, actual brother of Adam Carswell, our traditional host. But Paul, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and just tell everybody a little bit about what you were like at your personal Ground Zero.
Hello everybody. My name is Paul Carswell, former Westminster student, so Westminster alum, I guess I should say. Just like Mr. Iler here. Well, he's on his way at least. And now I am a Medicare Insurance Agent with a company called Medicare Portal, and I live in Charleston, South Carolina. It is sunny and it is warm here when it's cold in most other places, so that's a very nice thing about where I live. But yeah, where I was at in my ground zero, a couple different places that Aaron and I are going to talk about. One of which being while at school and just facing the different adversities that we had both on the court as a basketball player and then off the court, and then even here as a businessman now as an independent contractor. There's definitely been some ground zero points which Aaron I haven't really got to talk to about too much yet, but I look forward to really sharing with you some points where really found growth.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. I know definitely before we went ahead and hit record today, we were having some great conversations about our sports experiences. And we both kind of had a similar story in just kind of having to refine your identity after you've finished your term. You know, like for me, it was only 2 years, but for you, it was all 4. I mean, and it's just after something's that big a part of your life for so long, you know, you have to kind of do some soul searching afterwards. Why don't you just kind of touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so another thing I want to talk about, and I actually didn't bring it up to you, Aaron, too, is that I was raised in a Christian household as well. So obviously, as being raised in a Christian household, one of the things we're taught as kids is to have our identity in Christ. And really, my faith didn't really start growing until I was in college. For the longest time, it was kind of my parents' faith, and I was kind of riding on their coattails and going to church because they went to church. In college, I started exploring a little bit more. I got baptized when I was actually a junior, and I was about 20 years old, and kind of started seeing God really moving in my life. But at this point, my faith was really kind of like it wasn't as strong as I feel like I would have needed to be a foundation to really support me into that next season. God does amazing things, so I could be wrong. But anyway, at the ground zero point where I was really struggling with my identity as a basketball player, because for the longest time, Aaron, I know you identify with this. For the longest time, as a kid, you see your dad playing or see these guys playing on TV, and you start obsessing with just being a basketball player. And it's fun because you're good at it. So you're just naturally good at it. You want to work hard to be better at it. And then you get to another level, which, whether it be exactly what you dreamed about or not, you're still playing at an elite level as a college athlete. So you're fulfilling that dream in some sort and really strengthening what you call your identity in being a basketball player. And so like I was mentioning earlier, although as a Christian, I should have my identity in Christ, at the time, I really had my identity in basketball. And so when things started to shake up in basketball, there was moments during my junior and senior year where during the year, while playing, where I had slumps and the point where it's like, am I going to make it out of this? Do I want to continue playing? It really challenged my love for the game, or what I thought was my love for the game. And it really was kind of being stripped from me in those moments, because I just really hadn't faced challenges like that previously in my career. I had sat the bench in earlier parts of my career as well. In high school, junior, freshman, and sophomore year, I didn't hit my growth spurt yet. I was real small, and everyone else was so much bigger than me. And finally grew up my junior and senior year in high school, and then kind of just carried that on into college. And so, as a full-grown man, or in relation to the people around me, my junior and senior year in college really hit some struggling points. It was really challenging to my identity as a person, to the point where I was like, do I even love this game? This thing that I identified with for so long. It was, I don't want to say it was being stripped of me, but I was letting it slip through my fingers. So really my identity at the time was slipping through my fingers.
Yeah. And I mean, just to kind of touch on that, it's like you in the moment can't exactly feel it, but at the same time, you subconsciously know it's happening. And there's like such an internal conflict that your like mind wants to recognize what's happening, but your body or your heart, whatever else you want to call it, is rejecting everything, saying like, no, don't let go of this. Like, you know what I mean? This is your life. This is what you've done for, you know what I mean, 20 some years already. Like, this is everything you've done. You know what I mean? I mean,
Right.
I'd definitely say that's your heart talking, but like, but your mind's telling you like, there's a disconnect here. Like something ain't right. Something's not adding up. Like,
yeah. So I got to kind of like a disconnect point from where my heart was and where my head was in the middle of my junior year. I just went through the slump where, I mean, I was sitting the bench, and honestly, I earned it a good bit of the time, where I would go 0 for 5 from the field, play 20 minutes, and 1 for 2 from the free throw line. Like, that's unacceptable. Like, I'm playing half the game and I'm not producing any points. I'm generating turnovers. Like, understandably, got to sit the bench. But so now that my ability is being hindered, or just like I'm not performing well, that's kind of like, that's literally could have been the end of me, could have been the end of my career. And at that point, I start asking myself questions, my career collegiately, and as a collegiate basketball player. And then you start to ask the questions like, okay, like, who really am I? Even in the midst of like playing, because you're like, who am I? What do I need to be pursuing? Because this basketball thing is going to come to an end. I see it coming to an end, whether that's by my hand or just by time. So I'll never forget having a conversation with my dad, Mike Carswell, who is in the Hall of Fame actually at John Carroll University for basketball. He holds a single season record, or used to hold a single season record for field goal percentage. And I think he still holds a career single season block record there. He was a garbage boy. He just sat 10 feet from the hoop and just did everything in there. I'll never forget getting off the phone with him. I mean, tears in my eyes after a really hard fought game that we lost, gave up the lead and everything. And I'm just like, Dad, I don't know if I can finish this. And he really was like, son, I'm in support of you with whatever decisions you make, but I just want you to think long and hard about this. It's like, if you quit during the middle of the season right now, is this something you're going to look back at and regret? 5 years down the line, you will either potentially have endured this moment of hardship and been a better man from it, or you will have looked back and been like, I wish I could have. And I think, Aaron, one of the big differences between some where you sat at 2 years and where I was at, again, at like middle of 2 and middle of 3, our whole thing as a Cars, my dad always told me, he's like, you finish what you start. And so my thoughts of quitting, my thoughts of ending what I was doing in that moment were in the center of me completing that. So once I completed year 3 as my junior year, I'm like, that ended well. I got a chance. Senior year, it's going to be good. And then things happen senior year, same thing, middle of the season, slump. And it's just like, middle of the season, do I look at myself and say, is this worth stopping what I'm doing right now, or do I just endure? And I'm going to relate this to career. I know I'm talking a lot, but I'm going to relate this to my career here in a second, because there were hard moments for something that I felt like I loved, and that's something I started with a helpful finish in mind. Hopefully finish college, hopefully play full 4 years, hopefully have, a brotherhood that comes from it, and teammates and things like that, and things to hold on to from playing those 4 years. And had I quit in the middle of my junior year, had I quit in the middle of my senior year when I wasn't playing, I would have never had honors like, all decade team actually just came out this past year. I made second team all decade for basketball. I scored 1,000 points in the very last basket that I scored in college. And it's just like, things like that would have never transpired if I just gave up while I was in the middle of it. Now, to relate that to my career, right now I'm an independent contractor, and I've been doing Medicare insurance sales. So it's health insurance specifically for those who are 65 plus or 64 and under with 2 years of disability income from the government. And I help people find secondary insurance policies that go alongside of government healthcare. Anyway, Medicare specifically. So I'm about 3 years into doing this now. I started in August of 2018, and it's March of 2021. So close 2.5, almost 3 years. And when I started, I had a savings, and it wasn't long.
Okay, sorry about that, folks. We had some bit of technical difficulties. We're back in the new Zoom meeting. Paul, why don't you pick up where you left off?
Yeah, of course. And you know, it was a long-winded story as well. So I feel like Zoom was like, it's time to cut that thing off. But anyway, where we were talking about specifically was dealing with adversity and starting with something that you love, and really dealing with adversity through that, and then how you persevere at the end, or what rewards and what results it brings at the end. So when I was talking about basketball and how, you know, started at a high. Actually, I didn't mention I started half my freshman year. I started all my sophomore year. I was all conference my sophomore year, scoring 14 points a game on a team that was not very good. Our record was not great, but I was scoring 14 a game, and there was one other guy scoring 14 a game. We both made all conference, and doing so, going into my junior and senior year, then having the slump and just going from that to low points was like just crashing off a mountain. But anyway, so really just showing the results of how even finishing through my junior and senior year when it was difficult for me, and then finishing with, you know, honors like all decade team and 1,000-point scorer, how that translates into my business is when I started Medicare insurance sales in August of 2018. And I just had an understanding for what I was doing. I took some coursework, and I was, you know, what I didn't feel like was well versed in the Medicare conversation actually turned out to be quite. I ended up helping quite a few people in those short few months, just due to the education that I'd learned the few months beforehand. So I went full time in August of 2018. Came off of a W-2, came off of a salary. I was making like $70,000 a year as a 23, 24-year-old selling paint at Sherwin-Williams. And that was a great experience in itself. But when I stopped doing that, I go from making, you know, X amount monthly to literally making zero, starting from ground zero, like no exaggeration there. And I have no clients. I have nothing but a certification and some savings. And my mindset was like, okay, if I can make it 3 months to the end of the year, basically the annual enrollment period for Medicare is October 15th to December 7th. And that's the time of year where if you enroll people for the coming year, you get paid in lump sum commission in January. So I was like, if I can make it through these months, write enough policies, that way I can get paid out in January and really see the fruit of my labor, then maybe this will be something I can do for my career. But at the time, it was really just kind of an escape. It was like, I want to work for myself. I want to see what it's like, and I want to see what it can bring to me. So burned through my savings pretty much in those 3-4 months, but was able to write I would say maybe 15 policies during the annual enrollment period, in which I got commission paid out in January. And once I got that check, I was like, oh, there is a chance, there is a hope that this might be something I could do for long term. And during that time, I realized how little the people I was really, I call it educating, really helping at that time, how little they knew about their health insurance and how much of a service I could provide. And I really had to learn that. Those first 4 months was pivotal, and just seeing where I fit. Then once January came of 2019, I was like, okay, I can do this for a career. It's going to be great. Just forget about the money that I lost last year. Like it'll be okay. It'll all work out. Well, the entire year of 2019, I only had a commission check from that January from the business that I had done the year before. From then on, all of 2019, there's things called special enrollment periods where you can enroll people during the month and, have them effective for the next month. You get a commission check for that. I was literally writing policies so I could eat for like the next week. And so all of 2019, I racked up a ton of credit card debt. And this is not the sexy, talk about starting your own business that everyone loves to hear. Oh, I made $4 million in 3 years. Like, it doesn't always happen that way. But racked up a ton of debt, wrote a good number of policies, and did a ton of networking, literally shaking hands before COVID, of course. So shaking hands with hundreds of people every month, to the point where now that I am 2 years down the line, about 2 years from that point down the line, I'm now getting referrals from those people that I was shaking hands with 2 years ago. I'm now getting full sustainable business from, business that I had written 18 months ago. And had I not stayed in, even when I was racking up debt early on in 2019 and all the way up until 2020, I would still, I wouldn't be here in a place where now my business is profitable. Now I'm in a point where I can sustain both me, and I got married last year. So me and my wife. My wife doesn't have to teach anymore because of the business that I did in 2018, in 2019, in 2020. And I did rack up debt in those years, and it was not fun. And it was hard to look at every time you swipe that card and you look that number go up. And then next thing you know, you got an interest on it. And you're like, dang, like I'm just struggling. And, but at the end of the day, I mean, now that I'm 3 years in business, I've got 2 full years of residual income coming in, as well as business that I'm writing right now, which is paying on top of that. And I have enough to sustain a family on. But it wasn't like that 2 years ago. It wasn't like that at ground zero. It wasn't like that when I was sitting there with no money in my pocket in 2019. So really just how the two have mirrored each other is like, there's starting a high. You're like, okay, this is fun. I'm going to make a good amount of money. I'm going to play a ton of minutes. I'm going to score a ton of baskets. And then you just crash and really nothing to show for it. And I still feel like I'm on the uptick, not quite at the end of the result, but yeah, that's a lot of talking for saying you have to endure. You have to find the things that truly drive you. And, at this point, I talked about faith a little bit earlier. My faith had really grown as an individual, and probably in between 2018 and 2018, 2019, my heart really changed. And I started reading my Bible more and praying more and really understanding. I was like, Lord, if this money comes in, I know it's because of you, because I'm sitting here broke and I got nothing. And I got nothing. So if it comes in, I'm giving thanks to you because I see that you brought me through. And, got married, and my wife and I, we bought a house this year because we or just within the past year, because we had the financial freedom to do so. But had I given up my dream, then I probably would have gone back to Sherwin-Williams and been selling paint and not have a family life, because now I get to spend a good bit of my time at home. I get to hang up my phone at 3:00 if I want, spend time with my wife when she comes home. She's a teacher. Whenever we have kids, I'll be able to take the time during the day to love on them and be with them. I'll be able to, if I have a son or a daughter that wants to play basketball, I'll be able to do that with them during the day because of the freedom that I've created after doing 2.5, close to 3 years of hard work, and many more to come. So that's just why I want to also congratulate you, Aaron. I mean, you're on the right path of just, you start doing this now, you're going to have freedom in your schedule, freedom in your finances, and in your life. Just, it's coming. It's just a matter of time. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying. And I hope anybody listening to this is kind of on that path as well. I know you touched on a lot that hit for me there. You know what I mean? And I'm sure there's more than just me, but it's one of the biggest things, like, especially after basketball, like, is, yeah, I mean, some of it, I don't think that, like, it was maybe not, okay, let me think, maybe not quite as important as I thought it was. Like, it was just all that I knew. Like, I mean, it is what I did from, I don't know, 3rd grade until, you know what I mean, my sophomore year of college. Like, it is all I did. Like, and I mean, I loved every minute of it, but it was just, you know what I mean, I didn't really, in a little bit of hindsight, you know what I mean, I didn't sort of branch out enough at those times because I was focused a little bit, you know what I mean, maybe too much on basketball, but at the same time, I don't regret it. But yeah, so after I stopped, I just kind of had to do some, like I said, searching and, sort of find those things that, I mean, were related, but that were important alongside of basketball. You know what I mean? That family life that I, had envisioned with it, those things. And a lot of the things that came with that was, I mean, this idea of financial freedom. I mean, and just the free time to be a husband, to be a dad. Like, I mean, and that's one of my biggest drivers right now. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I've decided to bite the bullet, you know what I mean, and put in the work now, so that whenever, me and my girlfriend, wife, or whatever, start a family, I can be a full-time dad. you know, like I don't have to worry about working from 9 to 5, then coming home and making dinner and then taking the kids to practice and doing this and then going to bed and doing it all over again. I've just,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
personally, I've like, that's what I grew up with. I mean, and God bless my parents for the things that they did, because I still don't know how they did it. But
Yeah.
I mean, I just seeing it is something I never really, you know, wanted for myself. Like, you know, I just kind of wanted better. And I mean, I love them to death, but it's not what I want, you know? So that's where, like, kind of like you've said, I've just been trying to do the work early. I mean, and definitely some of the things you talked about were gold in there, like networking, especially.
Yes, absolutely.
Connections can really carry you further than you think.
Yeah. So I got a good story actually for specifically for connections, because this has just been a blessing for me in the past couple weeks. This came up. So like I said, I started in 2018, and early in 2019 is when I really started networking, really started shaking hands, meeting people. And I sat down with this guy who does group health for the first time. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to go get coffee with this guy. I mean, dude, I'm used to selling gallons of paint over a counter, talking to contractors about how many gallons they're going to need for a big job. And now I got to go out of my comfort zone, talk to someone about health insurance who's also in health insurance. So he's really going to show me how much I don't know about health insurance, is what it felt like. I'm just going to go talk to this guy, and, you know, I'm just going to get schooled. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Sat down with this guy, and he's like, I like you as a guy. I like you as a kid. At the time, you know, I was 24, 23, 24. I was like, I like you as a kid. I think that you have made a good decision in your career, and really just stay the course. Again, he was encouraging me to stay the course. It's like, it's going to be hard. It's going to feel like when you have no business, you're going to feel like you want to just stop. You just want to quit. And that guy ends up being, so that was a first hand that I feel like I've ever shaken when it comes to networking. Shook, shaken, whatever the vocab is. And now 2021, I mean, I still stay connected with him. 2021, got a call from him. He's working with a group of people where, you know, 30 people in the firm. He does group health, 30 people in the firm, 10 of them, or like 6 of them and their spouses, need assistance moving into Medicare after they're leaving their employer's plan. So that is now business that is going to generate a ton of revenue for me, just by saying, hey, I shook his hand back in 2018 and I stayed in touch in the meantime. You know, quarterly, he might send me, like, throw me a lead, or like every 6 months, he's like, hey, how's it going? And it's nothing more than that, to the point where he's like, I'm his guy, and he knows he can come to me. He knows he's going to get good service. He knows he's going to get someone that's going to take care of his clients. And we just work, you know, in synergy in that regard. That's 3 years later, almost 3 years later from shaking this guy's hand. And now he's, you know, people are taking care of you. and just the longer you do it, the longer you brand yourself and what you're doing. Because I was doing Medicare then, I'm still doing Medicare now, and I'm just doing Medicare insurance. And so he knows he can come to me and he's going to get a good product, basically. So it's just networking in a nutshell. It doesn't always pay off in the moment. It doesn't always pay off in 2 weeks. It doesn't always pay off in a quarter. But this is literally 2 years later, and I'm getting a nice little nugget from this guy. So, and he knows I'm going to take care of his people. So it really works great on both sides. And it's a long-term game. It's a long-term game. We don't do this for tomorrow. We do this for years in advance.
Yeah, I mean, and that's it right there. I mean, that is powerful. I mean, because think, what if you meet one person like that a week? You know what I mean? I mean, one meeting a week, really. I mean, I like to think I'm pretty busy, but I can fit that in. You know, like, you meet one person a week. That's 4 people a month. The end of the year, you've met, you know, 48 people. Multiply that by 5 years. I mean, you're looking at like 250 people that, you know what I mean, could be leads for you, could be, you know.
For the people listening too, I want to say Aaron is also accounting for the 4 weeks that he takes vacation to be with his friends and family, because, you know, 52 weeks, he said 48. So I'm just letting you know that the month of December is off. He's family and friends.
Yeah, I mean, entrepreneurs don't take vacations. No, but yeah, I mean, it's just like it, and all you really have to do is, I mean, like, reach out, like, and just tell them exactly where you are. Be authentic. That is one of the best things you can do, is just be honest about where you are and what you want to do. And I mean, you'd be surprised how welcoming people are. And I mean, just how many people are out there that actually want to help you. And they'll connect you to somebody else at the end of your call. Like, it's just
Absolutely.
the biggest thing is just move.
Yeah.
Right foot, left foot. I mean, you just have to start moving. I mean, and you'll be surprised how fast you become that little snowball that becomes an avalanche, or, whatever metaphor you want to use.
Straight
like
up.
it compounds. I mean, and in your story alone, you showed that, I mean, you got to start somewhere. But the thing is, you started and you endured. I mean, and it paid off. I mean, I got to say that, at least with my sports experience, I do feel that, looking back on it, that was my time, because some of the things that I've been able to do since then have just aligned with me so much more. And some of the things that I've been able to accomplish since then, I mean, I'm almost more proud of what I've been able to accomplish outside of it than I was then. I mean, not that I don't miss it, but it's just my professional growth since then has really kind of thanked me for it. I mean, look at us now.
Right. And to say that you're still a student, and you're doing, I mean, here we are having a conversation, a podcast kind of situation, where I'm going to be like, hey, I know Aaron pretty well now. He's interviewed me. He's asked me to share my story. So then in turn, my story, and where we can refer each other, you know what I mean? Where it's just like, this is a long lasting thing that we'll be able to hold on for time, really.
Yeah. And I got to say, probably the biggest thing from today is endure. I mean, know your limits. Know when it's your time. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I got to say, it is hard to recognize that moment, but usually you'll know when you're not getting what you need out of it anymore. I mean, so.
Yeah, and just to add to that too, one of the reasons, so endure is definitely the word of the day, but then also seeing, having good people around you to really support you and help you know your limits. Because again, if it's just us in our own head. So when I was in school, when I was struggling with basketball, my mentor of a sort, the one who spoke into my life, was my dad. Now, being in my career, I've got a couple guys, but in the example that I gave of networking, someone who's spoken in my life and saying, don't give up, persevere, endure, was the guy who's tossing me business now 2.5 years later. So it's endure, and then surround yourself with people that are going to push you to help you know your limits. Like, yeah, I can get past this. I can endure to the point where, like, you know what, my time here is done. And you'll have a peace with knowing that too.
Absolutely. I mean, and personally, I'm still working on doing that right now. I mean, that's kind of one of the ways that I'm trying to leverage this podcast. I mean, it's meeting professional people that both, like, you can refer me, I can refer you. Like, obviously we get a professional relationship out of that, and both of our businesses benefit. But at the same time, like, I'm building professional relationships. I mean, but not only that, like, I feel like, I mean, I could follow up with you and we could talk, almost any time, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's
absolutely.
It's more than that too. And it's just like, but it's not, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of what I just feel like people don't realize is just how easy it is. I mean, you just want to have a conversation. Like, I mean, and don't get me wrong, that can be work. I can tell you, when I first started, I was exhausted after 2 calls. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Networking can be exhausting, but it gets easier. I mean, and that's all of it. I mean, the
especially when you got mutual connections. Absolutely. When you have mutual connections, it just starts getting fun. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and then that's just where this interview really shows the powers of networking, enduring, and compounding. I mean, like, you start and you stick with it. The things that will come from then, I mean, you'll never see it coming, but you'll be glad you did.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I think it's about time to close this up. I don't even know how long we've been going now. I know we've done 2 separate Zoom calls because we got kicked off of one. But I suppose I'd just like to ask, for any young entrepreneurs out there, what is one good way to follow up and get in touch with you?
Best way is to email me. at paul@medicareportal.org. And Aaron's going to throw that in the comments or down below or something like that. But then you could also call me or text me at 703-342-9087. If you want to set up a one-to-one and meet with me, send me an email for sure, because that way I'll be able to throw it on my calendar.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's just something right there. I mean, like, you're on a random interview with, a borderline random kid. Like, this is the first time you and I have actually had a conversation, like a full conversation.
But we had a full 30 minutes before we started the interview. We were good.
Okay, I guess that counts. But but you're giving out your personal phone number to anybody that's willing to listen. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's powerful in itself. Like, and that's, I don't think enough kids my age realize that there's people that will do that. Like,
right. And how willing I am to receive a message. I really do. I encourage anyone who sees this and wants to reach out or learn more about my story or what I do as a career, any of the above. Networking connections are, sure, they're business related, or they can be, but Aaron, it turns into a first name basis and really getting to know who the person is. You'll feel comfortable doing business with anyone you really know.
Absolutely. But yeah, with that, guys, the words of the day: endure, network, and what was the last one?
We'll throw mentorship. It's kind of like an aside to endure, but because your mentors help you endure.
Absolutely.
So I would say Adam's doing a phenomenal job, right?
Yeah,
doing a great job. Honestly, it's you can see it.
Yeah, you won't see it at first, but it'll come. And I'm on episode 2, and I already feel like I'm, doing better. Yeah. So,
And what I'm saying is, you won't see it. I can see it. You might not see it yet, but I can see it. Someone can see it. The people around you will notice the fruits of your labor before you do, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. I've definitely started to notice that more as, time's going on. The biggest thing is just find something you're interested in, start. Whether it's just doing some research about it, just start, and you have no idea how fast things will compound for you. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in to Dream Chasers Ground Zero. Always remember, there's nowhere to go from here but up.